to Cooper Talk.
Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guests. And I got you the quick PSA today, people. I haven't talked about this, but 6 weeks ago, I was in a hospital for 8 days. Now, I had stopped taking my heart medicine. I had cut the dose down because it was getting me tired, which I shouldn't have. So I ended up in the hospital for 8 days, and not once did I get jello, which pissed me off a little bit. But my message to you is this. If you're taking any kind of medication, please talk to your doctor before you stop, because being in a hospital sucks. Anyway, I feel great now, and I feel great for our guest today, man. I love the band he's in. He's a great singer. This band just came out with a new album, a new video. They're going on tour, and my guest is Mike Peters from The Alarm. How you doing, Mike?
Thank you.
How you doing today? Good?
I'm fantastic, yeah. Really good here in Wales.
Okay,
California
good.
weather looks fantastic.
Actually, I moved back to New Jersey, and it's actually nice today, which is good because it's been really crappy. So.
I was in New York only 2 weeks ago, so any weather's usually better than Wales, but this time around we've lucked out.
Exactly. I got to ask you a question. Now, I watched the new video, Blood Red, Viral Black, and because your band was in the 80s, you were involved in the big MTV scene, the big, it helped break so many bands. What is the difference in shooting a video now as to it was shooting one back then?
Well, it's a lot faster now. The technology has become smaller, so you can film with SLR type cameras, with iPhones. You can use GoPros. You're not just reliant on $1 million cameras and film and tape. And these days, you can actually see what you're shooting back pretty quickly on the screens and the monitors that the modern technology allows you to have access to. And it's a much more of a process that brings you closer to what you're trying to achieve. Always in The Alarm, we used to have to do storyboards and treatments and meet all the different producers who had an idea after listening to the song. But these days, we just kind of conceive things ourselves and see it through with our team. Some videos that The Alarm has shot, we've almost filmed ourselves, and then some we've worked with some great producer directors still to this day, and so it's good to mix it up because, again, with The Alarm, the first video we ever made was The Stand, and that was one run through with a multi-camera shoot in Los Angeles at the old A&M Studios lot, and I just had the idea to paint spray the poppy, and it was done in 20 minutes, whereas we did other videos, things like Sold Me Down the River, where we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars flying to America and shooting them in the Midwest, in that part of the world, and which is hard to get to. Bozeman, we were trying to get to shoot. It was a tough day, and then you never saw the result until 3 weeks later. Not often, if you were disappointed, you couldn't go back and change anything. It was set in stone because the production costs were so high, and it was a big wheel to turn. So you can have much more creative control in this day and age. And now it's not as important. There's more outlets than just MTV. You can bang it up on YouTube, TiVo, you can share it on your website. So it's really fast medium to communicate now, and we all enjoy the process much more as a result.
I've heard some of the artists say you'd be lost in some of these videos, and then the production costs would come out of your back end for a lot of them.
That's right, yeah. It was always, the production costs were always recoupable against your records. And you never really knew how much was being spent on a video. You never got to see the accounts. It's so vast. There was such a big crew, so many people involved, third-party production companies. And for all we knew, the record company could have been saying, it cost $300,000, and it might have cost them $30,000 or $3,000. We never knew. We just was glad to be in the game, getting on with it, and that was the rules of engagement in those days. And I always had a feeling that one day it would change, that the control would come back to the artist. You know, it wasn't just going to happen overnight. It would take time, and luckily we were of that mindset, so we can we can benefit from the new technologies and the new mindset that artists have, and the new way they engage with labels and with the media. We're the beneficiaries of that. We have a much healthier lifestyle and life expectancy of what we're going to achieve as a result. So it's kind of liberated us in the Alarm.
Now, I want to talk about your early career, but I want to talk about the new album coming out, Sigma, which you're also going to tour around the same time. What is your process for putting out a new album? When do you know it's time? Like for Sigma, was Sigma going on your head for a while, or what made you record Sigma, and what made you choose when you're going to release it?
Well, originally we were working on what we perceived as a double album that was actually going to be called Blood Red, Viral Black, which is the title of the first video we released in Sigma. And when we completed the work, I just felt that it was, and you know, with members of our team and the band, we all talked it through, and we just felt that the world isn't a place where you can easily drop a double album into the lap of anymore. People haven't got the listening span, they haven't got the attention to give to it, and so we decided to go with a sort of double approach, and one part of the album first, and then the tour, with the full knowledge that we were going with the second part in a year later, and so the Sigma was finished, not completed a year ago, but we added to it after the fact. That it was it was conceived a year ago around the time of our Equals album, but we already knew that Sigma was going to follow it in June 2019.
Now, how do you pick the date to release it? What made you pick that? Your date. Is that you, or how does that figure that?
Yeah, that's again. We've got a really great team around the Alarm. It's not just a band. Guys and girls who've been part of our fan club. Growing up in the 80s, they help shape the decisions we make. All our fans do. We see how they respond to things on Twitter, on Facebook. We listen to what the forums are saying. We listen to what they say when they meet us at gigs, and that's all part of the thought processes. It's a digestive period. It takes a while, and we listen to what the fans have got to say. And we want to create exciting ways to share our music. And we thought, let's be a little bit secretive about Sigma coming out in a year, but let's just focus everyone on this part of the album, Equals, which we saw as part side 1 and 2, and Sigma is almost side 3 and 4. And we knew that we wanted to release it exactly 1 year to the day. We tried to, but because of the way the calendar works and the odd numbers, we were actually exactly 1 year and 1 day on from the release of Equals. So that creates a nice symmetry, and the artwork sort of is reflective of each other, and so it completes a picture for us, because Sigma is a Greek word for summation, and it's really it's probably the sort of final chapter of a creative journey that started almost in 2015. I've carried leukemia most of my adult life since 1995, and I relapsed, and in the healing recovery process, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, and that shifted the whole dynamic of how we worked and moved forward as a musical entity, and a lot of things were put on hold. And it was in that void, really, that a lot of this record was conceived. It started as lyrics first, lyrics that were just written into an iPhone as I was responding to situations I found myself in with my family, where our life and our livelihoods were being threatened on all sides. And these are just responses. I couldn't have a guitar with me while I was stood outside an operating theatre. My wife was having surgery for breast cancer. But I felt the need to express myself, so I just wrote words and words and words into my phone at the time, or whatever I had handy. And it was only when we sort of got to ourselves to a place of calm, and I showed all these outpourings to my wife, Jules. She said, I think that's your next album. That's where it needs to come from. And she was right. And so the lyrics dictated the whole conception of this record from the start, whereas usually I would work with a melody or a chorus line and work backwards, almost going down the mountain. You know, the high point of any song is the hook line, it's the chorus. And I would sort of work myself back towards the ground where that's where the introduction was, then the first verse and the bridge to get back to the chorus. Whereas with this one, in a way, a bit like reflective of our country journey, we started at the bottom of the mountain with the basic ingredients, and then we found the hook lines. The further we travelled into, and the higher up we went into this music that we were creating unconsciously.
Now, do you find that the writing was somewhat therapeutic for you also, because you were, and as I said, I was just in the hospital, and you go crazy. There's nothing to do, you know, and you're scared. But did you find the writing was therapeutic and really helped you get through your visit?
Absolutely, 100%. It gave me something to focus on. It gave us a distraction. You know, there was a lot of harsh realities we had to face. You know, my wife, Jules, had to have a breast taken out, and I had to go through intensive chemotherapy. I was placed in a really scary predicament of maybe facing a bone marrow transplant unless my doctor could convince this new drug environment to take me on their clinical trial and to get me onto a new drug that could prolong my life in the way I lived it, you know, and they were scary times, and having the distraction of lyrics and music and something to focus on really helped me through. I did, you know, push against the idea that we should cancel everything. When Jules was diagnosed, it was impossible to continue in the way we had, and we had to postpone all our concerts. And I said, rather than cancel, let's put them in a year's time. Let's bank on that we're going to have a good outcome. There's going to be recovery here, and we can go on tour. And let's plan for the future now while we're in this dilemma, rather than respond to it at the end of the situation. Because I felt like if we had something to look forward to, something to focus on, it would aid our recovery, not hinder it. And that's how it all transpired. So being able to write some of this music really helped us through incredible situations. And that's why I think it's resonated with our fans, you know, more so than a lot of our music of the last 20 years, because it's come from a very real place, and places that they've been to themselves in their own lives, and they can recognise what has happened and how it's been described in the music and the lyrics and the sounds that we've created.
I was going to say that, yeah, because I was going to say, you know, your fans, like I'm a fan, I'm 55, you know, we all start going through personal health problems, and people we know too, and I think when we see someone that, you know, we admire and we like their music, I think it helps us a little bit to know that they're also going through something like that.
Yeah, look, that's how the best music lives on. It creates an empathy with the listener. You know, when we were young, we had spiky hair, and we had our fists in the air, and we had a lot to say, and we were trying to break out of the confines that life imposes on you when you're young, and you're being straight-jacketed into those straight lines that have maybe been laid out by your parents or an earlier generation, and you're trying to sidestep that and swerve it and go in a different direction. That's not easy. And we created a soundtrack for that transition and transitionary period between being a youth and becoming a young adult. And we really created an empathy and a resonance with our audience that created the following that we rely on today, that are still with us. And a deep bond was made, and I can see those bonds that are being made as deep now through this new music, because we've all come a long way to still have the alarm in the reality that it is. You know, still making new music, still being able to tour, not just looking backwards, but going forwards with as much energy and purpose as we had when the band began. You know, we recognise that the terms of the agreement have changed, and it's the different rules that we live by and we adhere back to. But the passion and the energy and the outlook remains the same. It's forward facing, and we've lived out some of the lyrics that we have laid out in front of us, and we've been through those situations. Whereas we can only, when we say, you know, when our first song that people got to know us for here in the UK particularly was 68 Guns Will Never Die, and that's what people used to ask me about. They say, what's 68 Guns about? And I'd answer them, but now people say, what's it like to never die, to keep going through all these life struggles that you've been faced with? And so the song has changed from being a youthful battle cry now to being an anthem of never say die spirit that you find when you get to your adult stages of life, and you've got a family to provide for and to stay alive for. So it's I've always used to say when with the Alarm that we saw a lot of bands come along that became much bigger than we were. We started out after us, and I say to the guys that let's just imagine we're in the car that's on the inside lane, and we'll see those guys in their Porsche 911s and whoosh, and they go ahead in the distance, but one day we'll meet them and they'll be in a wreck on the side of the road, and we'll just keep going. And that's the journey we're on, and we're still on that journey, and we've seen tons of people crash and burn on the side of the road and they're never to be seen or heard of again, but we're not one of those acts, luckily.
You've been around, yeah, as you say, you're one of those acts with the long distance, you're going for the long haul. What made you get into music? Because I know you were in a band called The Toilets and a bunch of different bands, but was music around your house? What made you decide this career, which I'm sure when you decided when you were younger, you didn't know it would be a career, but what got you into this biz?
There wasn't a great deal of music in my household, but it was a pub, it was a public house, and there was a jukebox, and people played music and sang along to songs in the bar, and there was a lot of sport. I would go and see a lot of soccer teams in the northwest of Wales and England, and over the channels you hear some amazing music in the 70s when I was growing up, bands like Slade and Sweet, and I say, what's that? And I'd see guys with splash patches on their denim jackets with Slade and Wizards and T-Rex, and who's Mark Bolan, what kind of guy's that? And when you discovered that they were musicians and they played in bands, it was just like, wow, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be one of those guys in a band, and that's sort of where it really started. I grew up in a seaside town, not unlike a British version of Asbury Park, if you like. It was certainly in the 70s. There was a lot of show bands, and I had an older sister. She was 5 years older than me, and she went out with a guy in a band, and we played in the bars and clubs in Bill, and saw them play a couple of times, and it looked so exciting and free. Everyone I met who was in a band seemed to be unconcerned about life, and if certain things happened to them, well, it was like, hey, that's meant to be. I can still play my guitar. And I thought, wow, that's cool. If they lost their wages or lost their job, when a lot of them were working on the roads and then playing music in bands at night, and if they lost their job and they had to go look for another one, they said, hey, well, still in the group, still life goes on. That's what I'm really living for, and I thought, what a great attitude to life. So, and that's what I wanted to sign up to do.
Now, how did you bridge from loving that, what you wanted to do, to actually getting a band started?
Well, it's difficult because there's no rule book. There was no blueprint to follow. You just had to follow what had gone before you. And, for me, living in Wales, trying to be in a band in probably 73, 74, that's probably when it really started to dawn on me that I wanted to try and get a group going in school. There was still a massive shadow of the Beatles. They'd only come from 50 miles away in Liverpool, and they'd only just broken up, but they show you how far you could go. But there was this massive gap that there was established bands that were huge, and then there was not a lot in between. And the only bands that you could aspire to be in, where I grew up, were cover bands, learning to play, Roxy Music or Sweet or Slade or things like that. And that's what we did at first. We tried to be in those kind of bands, and we were terrible at it. We just weren't good enough musicians. We couldn't get to the level that they were at was way beyond where we were. And it was only when we saw the Sex Pistols that we thought, aha, they're doing it with the same three chords we know. That's enough for us. And that got me into starting a punk band, and that opened the door. They showed a way. They shone a light in that made me think that's the way I can go. And so punk rock was my salvation, really.
So you went from punk, and then you formed different bands. I know, as I said, you were in a band called The Toilets. And how did the Alarm come about, and how did you get the name?
Well, we were called 17 after the toilet. There was only myself in the first line of the toilets, and then one by one, the guys who became members of the Alarm sort of drifted into the scene because there wasn't a lot happening in North Wales. I was the first sort of original material band in North Wales that you could sort of think of in a way. And so one by one, those younger guys that were my age we all found each other through the grapevine, and I realised that they were better than, the guys I were playing with were dropping out because of, drugs, or just didn't have the energy to keep going when it got a little bit tougher. And then we settled on a lineup that became the Alarm, but we were called 17 first, and we had a lot of energy, but we didn't have enough real songs that connected. We didn't realise it at the time, but that's probably one of the reasons. And we got a tour. Luckily, we got a tour supporting the Stray Cats. We pretended to be a support band at one of their gigs, and they admired our cheek and balls, and put us on a tour with them. And that's when we really saw how a young band operates that wanted to set themselves apart. And they had a haircut, they had the quips, they played great guitars. Slim Jim stood up, and Lee Rocker was jumping all over his bass, and Brian Setzer was like Elvis meets Jimi Hendrix. It was an incredible sight to behold, and we just thought, well, we've got to. If that's where we're going to go next, we've got to up our game. And so we became almost like a psychedelic sort of cowboy mod band, and we put pickups in acoustic guitars to amplify our songs from the source level, and we called ourselves the Alarm as a result of the Alarm Along was the first song I'd ever written for our band, The Toilets, and that was the first creative act. We said, let's call ourselves Alarm Alarm, and we were going to bill ourselves for that for our first gig until John Peel read out our letter and said, there's a lot of these bands with double barrel names, Duran Duran, Talk Talk, and he made a joke about changing his name to John Peel. So I said to the lads, well, I think we should call ourselves the Alarm from now on, otherwise we'll get that joke for the rest of it. So that was how the Alarm was born and named.
Now, was it hard getting a record deal back then? You said you were touring with Sport with the Stray Cats. I know you guys eventually signed with IRS, I believe. But how did you what was the process of you getting a record deal?
Well, it was hard to get a record deal, but there was lots of record labels. So in those days, if you got turned down by EMI, you went to Polydor, and if Polydor turned you down, you went to Decca, and they turned you down, you went to MTA, and then you went down and down and down the food chain. But you probably have 300 or 400 record labels to approach in Britain. And Eddie McDonald in the Alarm with me at that time, we used to read the music papers, and we saw there was an advert in a magazine, British bands wanted, for a record deal, and we answered the advert, and it was to a dentist in Dulwich in South London, and he offered to put up the money to make our first record, and we came home with a record deal, and that's when Nigel Twist, the band, joined and decided he wanted to sign up because he could make a record, and Dave Sharp was in the Alarm, convinced his father he could leave the Navy permanently instead of being a weekend member of the band. He left to join to make the record, and so it was hard to get a record deal, but there was also lots of options. So if you were anyway decent, you would eventually get something, and that's what happened. But then getting a deal for the Alarm proved a lot more difficult in the sense that then we moved to London. We played with U2 in 1981. We played a lot of gigs in '82, and we started to build up a following. Our expectation grew from being a band that would take anything. We wanted an actual album deal, and we nearly signed to EMI. They offered us a singles deal, but they wouldn't offer us an album deal. And so we decided to go with IRS Records, who were offering us a chance to make an album as well as singles. And although they were a smaller label, our manager, Ian Wilson, said, look, guys, what's good about these IRS Records is it's owned by Miles Copeland, and he understands America, and he knows how to break bands in America. Just look what he's done with the Police. And that was enough for us, and we had a great relationship with IRS that still exists to this day. A lot of the team that were at IRS are working at Ingrooves, the record label we still work with in America now, with the Alarm. So, in fact, Michael Glenn, who was the guy who broke us at radio in America in 1983 with The Stand, he's the one who's working the Alarm Records at radio this summer. So it's a lot of great things have happened to us because we were on IRS Records. Because it was like the Alarm. It's a homely label. It was an ideas label. They didn't have the biggest checkbooks to go out and spend $500,000 buying you onto American radio stations in the payola years. They just had to do hard work and good ideas and come up with catchy phrases and make a stand for their artists on the true value of their music, which it stood us in good stead as well.
Now, you mentioned U2, and I know you came to America to be in support of U2 in a tour. What was it like from when you guys hit America, and how long do you think it took till you started getting recognized in the States? Because I remember watching your videos, and we dug your music, but how long do you think that took?
Well, to be honest, we were really lucky because as soon as we played with U2, they were our friends. And when Bono and the Edge were going into radio stations, they were saying, "Hey, don't play New Year's Day. There's a band from Wales opening for us tonight. They're called The Alarm, and this is their record. It's called Come On Down and Make the Stand." And they were the guys that were playing our music to American radio. So I know people have experienced that before. And all the U2 fans think, "Wow, who are these?" And they were coming in to check us out. And IRS Records responded to it and put our first 2 UK singles out as an EP, a 5-track EP, just the 2 A-sides and the 3 B-sides. And it took off like a rocket straight away. It was a grassroots thing. And unlike a lot of bands, our first date in America was in front of 8,000 U2 fans. And they probably all went out and bought the Alarm EP the next day. And then, within weeks we're playing at the LA Sports Arena, or we're on the pier in New York, and playing to lots of people in a short space of time. We had no idea who we were. There was no fanfare from Britain. We weren't on the cover of The Enemy or Melody Maker. We hadn't been in the British charts. But people had no idea who we were. And I think that endeared us to a lot of people, because I think for Americans there was no preconception. People were taking us on face value, thinking, "Hey, I like that band. They're interesting. Look at the guitars. Look at the haircuts. Listen to the lyrics. Listen to the sound. It's different. Let's check them out. Let's make them our band too." And that's how it worked.
Where did you find the lyrics from back then? Where did they come from? Where did they resonate from?
Well, always like now, they're from life experience. Come on down and make the stand. That was from reading the Stephen King book On the Road. But it was I could relate to the story that book was putting across about making stands, or in that case of the book, it was for humanity and the world. But when you're making a stand on behalf of your music and your community and where you come from and your band and your bandmates, and you're trying to establish yourself in the world, that's really what everything was derived from. And it was from the heart. We weren't singing about the debauchery after rock and roll or the girls we met on the road. We were singing about our life struggles and our families back home, and how we were trying to break out of that confine, but also keep the respect of the people we loved, that even though they thought we were insane, not going to the job for life that my father had lined up for me in an aeroplane wing factory. Instead, I broke away from that, took a risk, joined the band, but I still want my dad to respect me and be there for me when I came home. And so I didn't want to write about a situation where I just smashed him to bits because he didn't agree with me being in a band. I wanted to earn his respect. And I think that a lot of people like that, there's a certain amount of rebellion that is just rebellion for the sake of it. But, when you stand up for yourself in a situation, you do want to earn the respect of your foe or your opposite, and so that you can both understand and learn from each other and move forward. And I think that's where we were tagged as being a sort of political band at first, but we weren't. We weren't singing about party politics. We were singing about the politics of life, about how to live together with people that you've never met before, who've got maybe a different religion, different way of seeing the world. We were young guys travelling to America. We'd never been there before. What's this country going to be like? We didn't go with a preconception like a lot of people we saw that were from British bands that came and said, "We hate America, we've seen it on TV back in Britain. horrible place, full of murderers and this, that, and the other. We said, let's go and discover it for face value. Let's not have a preconception, and let's discover America for ourselves. My grandfather came to America after the First World War in 1918, and he was sick of the horror of the First World War. He couldn't face coming home, and he went to America for 3 years and tried to create a living till he got too homesick for Wales. And on New Year's Eve 1920, he left America and set sail for Britain. And he always said to me the best sight he saw was when he crossed the bridge into Wales and he knew he was home. And my grandfather loved America, so it was incredible. And he, when I first went, he said, "Mate, it's a great place. You go and enjoy it. And here's some money." He thought he was being clever, giving me the fare to come home if I didn't like it. And he put £25 in the pocket, because that's how times have changed. But that I think a lot. The way I saw America came from my grandfather, who saw it as a land of opportunity and a land of where anything could happen, and you can make anything of yourself over there. And that's where our lyrics are coming from, the same place.
Now, being British, I was reading that you were on Top of the Pops. Was that huge for you? Because I'm sure every musician watched Top of the Pops. What was that like?
Yeah, it was massive. And the first time we did it, we were actually in America. We didn't think we were the charts, but what Johnny Rotten and Public Image pulled out of the show is unheard of. And the only band they could find that was available was The Alarm, and we were in America. But since Miles Copeland, who ran IRS Records, he had the foresight. He didn't see that as an obstacle. He said, "I'll get him on a plane and I'll get him back to Britain overnight," and which we did. And so it was so exciting. It was so out of the blue, something we never expected. And so we just were like kids at the show. To us it was like being asked to play at the last minute in the Super Bowl, and you score the winning touchdown in your first minute. It was just like incredible. And then after that, it wears off a little bit, because you are mining. You're playing along to your record, and then you meet other artists in the same situation. Our second Top of the Pops, we were on the same show as the Smiths, making their debut, and Echo and the Bunnymen, Ian McCulloch, and just chatting to them was it started to open our eyes to what's possible and what the downsides are too. So, but to go on Top of the Pops, it was a great film. What I liked about it more than anything was that it was diverse. You could be on Top of the Pops next to sort of Jive Bunny or some stupid, act that have no relevance as a one-hit wonder. But it made your band seem even more important because you came on after something that had nothing to do with you. Whereas today in music, everything gets put in these straight lines. This is rock music, this is disco, this is alternative, this is pop. And there's no crossover, no cross-fertilization. So you can't compare the genres to one to the next, because they're never played in the same arena anymore. And so I always think that was great, because when, I'm sure probably the Smiths came on after sort of like Olivia, how important and how powerful the Smiths were as a result, but you just don't see that anymore. It's not quite the same. And we were lucky enough to go on American Bandstand as well, and that was similar. There was pop acts, dance, top 40, and then The Alarm. It was obscure, but it was great because of that.
Now, in '91, you guys split up. Why? What happened?
Look, life took hold of us. It was a breakdown of a lot of communication skills that we didn't have in our arsenal at that time. And it sounds really shocking now and sad that that's what was happening. My father died. Our drummer's stepfather committed suicide, and we found him. My sister had a brain hemorrhage. Two of the band had gone to live in America. They'd married into American families. I was the only one living in Wales, and one of the other guys was living in London. And the distance and the emotion of all that we had to deal with was so vast that we lost each other. We lost communication within the band. The bonds that tied us together were severed because of these outside influences. And we didn't have the skill set to put them back together at that time. So the band went its separate ways, and then it came together again in 1999 Eddie approached me about playing some music again, and we did a soundtrack to a play together called Flesh and Blood. Then we did some shows with Big Country, and then it became The Alarm, and Eddie played a few shows with us, and then he decided he didn't like didn't like being on the road anymore. He'd been off the road for 10 years and wanted to get back to being a photographer, and that's sort of what he did, and then so I was left carrying the baton. We played together again in 2003 as part of Bands Reunited, and that was a great thing as well, because our reunion was able to be filmed and captured and broadcast, so everybody got to see it, not just the people at that one show that we made. So that was again, that brought us together. Only and we were able to start to deal with some of the things that had splintered us. But our friendship, friendships can be severed, but they can still be patched together. And our friendship, our deep friendship, was always there. And at recent times, Dave Sharp, our original guitarist, he's playing on the new album. He's played on the track Equal, which is on the new Sigma album. And then we were in San Francisco last summer, and Nigel Twist came up and played. He had his support band playing with us as well, his own group. And it's pretty harmonious, So and we all have been collaborating on the in contact over the reissues of the new versions of the Alarm album from the 80s. So we have an ongoing relationship that works, and the Alarm's part of one big we're all one massive family, really. So that's how it works now.
Now, how did you find the lineup you're with now? I know James has been on the show before. He's had such a great musical lineage. How did you find your lineup that you're playing now, and is it hard to get comfortable with people?
No, look, life brings you together. It's I think when you're out there and you need a drummer. The guy comes through the door, he can play the drums, he becomes your drummer. You don't almost get a chance to find out if you like the guy or not. Can he play the drums? Can he play the way I want him? Yes, fantastic, let's get on with it. Then you go on tour and you're like, oh, hang on, maybe I'm not quite sure about this guy or that guy. But you're living with it then, so you get on with it. So, but with the Alarm of today, we're all best mates. When we're on the road this summer, we can't wait. We're like a family. It's so tight. James is I love him. If you ever need a friend to count on, James is one of those guys. He's always there when you need him. He's amazing, brilliant musician. Knows how to be in a band. Knows how to respect the time when you maybe need a bit of privacy. Knows when to put his arm around you to respect what you're trying to do. Go with you into the darkness when you're not quite sure what you're trying to express, when it's an instinct only. Smiley, our drummer, again, he's played with Joe Strummer, he's played with Robbie Williams. He's my best mate. We get on like a house on fire. Jules plays keys with us now, and we're just like it. If you ever go on YouTube and look at the Alarm in the dressing room, sometimes we put videos, we're all bouncing around, getting ready to go on stage, and we'll probably sing along to Staying Alive by the Bee Gees and dancing around the room, having the most amazing time. And that's even this summer when we're coming over to do the Sigma tour. We're going to be broadcasting a lot of things. We want to show people what it's like to be in a band that gets on really well. And that loves touring and being in each other's company, and that's what we have in the Alarm right now.
Well, a lot of people know of your music, but a lot of people don't know about your Love, Hope, and Strength, and you had that huge concert back in 2007. What was that like? How did you get the people to play on that?
Well, when we went to Everest, it was just a case of first putting a phone call out, to see who would be up for coming to perform in these iconic mountain locations, and I think Glenn Tilbrook was an early one to sign up, and it took him about 2 minutes to say yes. It's less than that. And then Slim Jim Phantom, I'd known from the Stray Cats, and from the back in the day, we'd always stayed friends, and he just said yes straight away, and that's how it worked. We put an honest call out. We didn't try to, we were asking to climb Everest, to leave their families for 2.5, 3 weeks and do some training. It wasn't an easy call. It wasn't an all-paid expenses trip to an arena somewhere with a nice backstage area full of free drinks. We were asking them to do the opposite, go into some place they might never go before, test themselves in a place they've never been before. And I think the challenge responded, and that's, people are like that with Love Hope Strength, because we ask them to do the unexpected, and it's an honest call, and we've been very fortunate to have the support of some amazing artists.
Now, you recently received the MBE. How did that come up? And that's amazing. I mean, that's such a high honor. What happened? How did it get bestowed upon you?
I don't know, really. I still don't know. It was you're obviously put forward by people who are monitoring what's going on in society, and with Love Hope Strength, we've done a lot of work. All our work raises funds for people who don't have access to the kind of treatments that kept myself alive or my wife Jules. So we do events here in Wales. We climb Snowdon every year, and we raise money for cancer services in the shadow of the mountain. When we're on the summit, we can see down below the cancer centres we're going to be supporting. It's the same when we head to Everest. And so with a lot of people, we've raised a lot of money, a lot of awareness. We saved a lot of lives who will get on the list, BOMO sign-up campaign. And the word's obviously filtered back to Buckingham Palace, and they've gone, well, let's recognise that guy. So, I thought it's been an award for Love Hope Strength, not just me personally. Of course, it's an incredible honour for me and my family and the kids, but it's for everyone, for all the Alarm fans, for everyone who supported Love Hope Strength. It's a real honour for all of us. We describe it as the MBE stood for a multitude of brilliant efforts, and that describes all the efforts everyone who's done put in the name of Love Hope Strength, or come to a gig to volunteer, or swap the cheek. It's for everyone who's made a donation and helped make a difference to the name of our charity, Love Hope and Strength.
Now, you're starting a new tour. What can your fans expect to see? Are you going to play a lot of music off Sigma? Are you going to play classics? Is there going to be any storytelling? What can your fans expect to see on this tour?
Well, it's going to be a full-on rock and roll tour. It'll be different every night. I mean, we don't play the same set twice. We respond to what happens in the audience. It's going to be a very interactive tour. There'll be a lot of communication in and out of the dressing room through social media sites that we're present on, through Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, YouTube or Spotify, or all those kind of places where you can communicate with your audiences, bands in town. There's so many, and we're creating events and an output for all those formats. So nowadays, because it's so easy to see what the band plays when you're in one town and you're going to see them in the next town, it can give the game away. So our focus as a band is change things up. So you don't, when you come to see us in San Francisco, what we do in Sacramento the next night isn't going to be the same, and that's how it is. So it's a mix of everything. We don't want people to just see us as being a copycat band of what we did in the 80s. That's not what we're about, and I don't think our fans expect that. They know that we'll respect that era. There'll be some certain songs played from that era that define what an Alarm gig is, and those songs get played. Those songs are Strength, 68 Guns, The Stand, Spirit 76, all those kind of Blaze of Glory, Walk Forever by My Side, those iconic songs that we're known for will get played, alongside things that have become huge with our audience now through the release of Equals from last year, through things like Two Rivers and Beautiful, they'll get played, and Neutral and Cenotaph, and then the songs on Sigma that are going to get an airing, Blood Red Viral, Black, Brighter Than the Sun. They're all part of what make an Alarm gig special now. And but the most important ingredient is to expect the unexpected.
Now, what's the feeling? It must be a great feeling when you have people who come up after the show who have been a fan for all these years, who've turned their kids into fans. Hell, some of them maybe even their grandkids and fans. What is that like as a musician when you see that happen? Does that just sit there and culminate what your career has been about?
because that is what your career is about. You know, my career was always about creating a lifelong journey with the fans, not just some. Didn't want to just be there for 5 minutes to sell them a record, disappear with the spoils of the take. You know, to me it was always about making something lasting, creating a lasting legacy that even when I'm gone, people still have respect for what the Alarm did and achieved in its time. You know, and the Alarm has been a band that's had to, you know, survive lineup changes and find a way to still stay relevant, to become relevant outside of the era the band was born in. All those things are, you know, you can get lost in the middle of those engagements, if you like, and you could give up there and then. But we've been fortunate to see them through to the other side, and we can stand tall and say, yeah, we've been through that and we survived, and we've been through that too, and we survived that. And we're a real survival story. And we have an event in Wales called a Gathering. We just held our third one in New York. We're coming up to our 28th year running, and that's really where the physical manifestation of our relationship with our audience takes place. You know, we built up a big relationship with our audience online post '91, but the physical manifestation happens at the Gathering, where I was at times in my life unable to travel because of the leukemia. So the fans came to me, and we set up camp in Wales, and we put on a massive 3-day event. We played Alarm songs for days and days, and they kept coming, and we stayed there, and we met everybody and everyone at home, and we all shook hands together, and we made a promise to each other that we'll be there next year too. And that's what drives us on. You know, it's not just me. I don't drive the Alarm. The audience do it as well.
Now, are you working currently on new music too, or are you just getting ready for the tour, or do you plan to put out a new album in the next year or two?
Yeah, I'm always working on stuff. I've got a lot of things on the go, yeah. So, I mean, when we come home from the American tour, I'm embarking on a British tour. It's more of a solo storyteller representation of records we did 30 years ago. We in '87 recorded Eye of the Hurricane, '88 Electric Folklore, and '89 the album Change. Now, to me, there was a bond between all those three records. They were almost like an Alarm trilogy, really. I don't think any of us quite recognised it at the time. But, you know, looking back in hindsight and piecing the music together and seeing the lyrics in certain ways, there's a thread that runs through all that music. So I'm looking forward to taking that out on the road, you know, and giving people a new insight into that part of our history, and seeing where that leads to the future. Because, you know, the seeds of Sigma and the Equals and Blood Red Vinyl Black were all sown through me doing something similar with our first album when the 30th anniversaries of Declaration and Strength came around. I didn't want to just reissue them, dust down the original recordings. I wanted to look back at the songs. How could they be reinformed by, you know, reinterpreting them, or, you know, looking through those lyrics that got left behind on the cutting room floor? Should they have stayed in the songs? You know, with the benefit of hindsight, some of them, you know, the song 68 Guns, for instance, we had to take a verse out of that song to get to the chorus straight away so the radio would play it. And in our naivety, I said, yeah, take the second verse out. And I realised that verse left behind all those years ago gave the song its true meaning. There was a line that said, if they take our chances, we'll create our own. And we left that out of the song. And when you play the song today with those lyrics in the second verse, it takes the song to another level. And to be able to share that and repair that with our fans has been really, it's really insightful. It's led to new lyrics, new songs that have come for the future. And I'm hoping that by going back to the Hurricane of Change, some new avenues of exploration will be opened up.
Well, that's awesome, man. You know, I want to thank you for coming on. The album's coming out in June. The U.S. store starts July 19th. People, the Alarm's website is thealarm.com. Go to YouTube. Look up The Alarm. Look up Mike Peters. And so, Michael, thank you. People, check my website out, coopertalk.net. I have over 720 episodes. Email me, Cooper at coopertalk.net. Twitter @Cooper. Remember, I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guest. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I'll talk to you guys next week.